Welcome everyone to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations that explore diverse topics and stories impacting our Asian Pacific American communities. I'm your host, Arnold Chun. Today on Asian Pacific Voices Radio, we're excited to welcome a dedicated educator and advocate for equity with over 20 years of experience. He currently teaches history and serves as a 5Cs instructional coach in the Anaheim Unified School District, while also serving on the Irvine Unified School District Board. He has pioneered Korean American and Asian American Studies courses, earned accolades such as the Roy Erickson Civic Education Leadership Award, and connect with families through his YouTube channel, EdFamily. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jeff Kim. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kim.
Thank you so much for welcoming Arnold to this channel, a voice that I know goes out to so many. And also really honored to be here with you, famous actor and director. I just feel so honored to be here.
Oh, well, this is all about you today. My job and my accolades and all that stuff doesn't compare to, I don't have doctor in my title. So, but I appreciate the support. It's a tough journey for either of us in our respective industries. But you know what? I want to start with your roots. I mean, we went to college together and we have a long history of just mutual friends and so forth. But I don't think I've actually heard your story. So I want to know, when your family immigrated to the U.S. And how your upbringing, how did it shape the identity and your eventual path into education?
That's right, Arnold. I think we can know a lot of people, but oftentimes we don't know their stories. So it's so wonderful to be in this space, to be able to share stories with one another. And then for myself, my parents came in the early 70s. This is a little bit after the 1965 Immigration Act. So there weren't actually many Korean Americans in the United States at the time, because before that, there were some restrictions from Asia. And the first immigrants that were able to come to the United States, many of them included professionals like medical doctors. And so my dad had graduated from medical school in Korea and then came over to the United States. I started working here. I was born in the United States. I know my parents were, my dad went to Yonsei Medical, my mom went to Ihwa. So you would think that they would be like tiger parents, but that's not how I grew up. They didn't put any pressure on me, but just encouraged me to do what would make me happy. They were really great role models for me. I saw my father working long hours, delivering many babies in our community, over like 5,000 in his career. He served in his church in the choir, actually. He started a charity choir, the East Bay Charity Choir, where I saw him like bringing beautiful music, bringing the community together through music, and then serving his community. And then I also saw a wonderful friendship between my mom and my dad. So there are a lot of blessings I saw in my parents growing up. However, I didn't see many Korean Americans in my own community or school. I did attend a Korean church, and that's when I connected with people of Korean ancestry. But other than that, I didn't have the opportunity to connect too much with many Korean Americans. And if I did interact with Korean Americans, many of them were first generation, meaning they were born in Korea, and many were not at the time fluent English speakers. So I can't even say I had many role models to look up to at that time.
You might have been one of the lucky ones as far as parents being tiger, mom and dad, because man, my journey and my friends, we definitely got told, if you don't do this, if you don't pursue that, you're getting kicked out. You ain't going to be in this house anymore. So you definitely were blessed and lucky to not have that experience. But I'm sure that led to, just so much more freedom and creativity, and just for you to pursue your passions and then to find that on your own, rather than kind of being steered toward like, oh, just be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, engineer, or, the traditional, safe, like quote unquote jobs that all the Korean American parents tell us to go into. So, I mean, growing up as a Korean American, I'm sure like, moments in school for you where you felt, were there moments that you felt, to your point, like seen or unseen? Because you were talking about you didn't see as many Korean Americans around you when you were growing up. And if you did, like, how did those early experiences influence the kind of teacher and leader you wanted to become today?
Yes, growing up, I feel if you were to see me as a child, like middle school Jeff or elementary school Jeff, I might have been that Asian kid in the back row of the class and never raising my hand in class, and maybe being a little bit unseen and maybe not wanting to be seen as well. But I know that in today's world, communication is so important. And in my current role as the 5Cs coach, we are desiring to amplify in our students communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, compassion, because we know these are the soft skills that are valuable today, and also valuable when students go to college, valuable when students go into the workforce. So I wish I had the opportunity more to develop some of those skills when I was younger. I wish I was seen. I wish they saw me and gave me the opportunity, even though I wasn't the one raising my hand. I wish I had the opportunity, because I think it's so important to amplify student voices, to see them, to embrace them, and the ideas, and I don't know if that really happened was in my youth. So today, when I work with students, I always want to amplify student voices.
I mean, what you just said is such an inspiration to me because that's kind of the same felt feeling that I felt in entertainment. Starting in 2003, it was rare to really find other Korean Americans that were pursuing this and at the same time had accolades or had gone, further ahead that could be mentors for me and kind of give me guidance and show me, the ropes in terms of like how to continue to climb the ladder, per se, and build my resume and build my career. And so that's really inspiring that you share that. I mean, you've been in the space of education for 20 years. So what was the inspiring thing that pursued you? That like led you to pursue teaching, and like how has that purpose evolved overall through your journey in education?
You hear stories of young people who say, like, ever since I was like little, I was like teaching my stuffed animals, and I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. My parents were teachers, their parents were teachers, but obviously that wasn't the case for me. I never thought about being a teacher, and no one ever said, "Hey, Jeff, I think you'd make a great teacher one day." So that was not my experience. I never thought about being a teacher. I never had a teacher, in fact, that looked like me in all my K-12 education. So that I just wasn't thinking about becoming a teacher, to be honest. And so it wasn't until after college that I thought about becoming a teacher. And the reason why is because after college, I had a chance to go overseas to India, where I was working at a school. There was a college there. There were some churches there. And I was like, imagine, I was mainly doing PR kind of work. But then the president of the organization, he said, Jeff, who is Korean, a national, he said, Jeff, I want you to teach some morning classes. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's something that I really want to do. But, I ended up doing it for over a year, and I loved it. I loved being in the classroom. I loved being a teacher. And it was something that I felt like, when I did it, it didn't feel like it was such a joy for me to do. And so when I returned back to the States, even then I didn't think about being a teacher. I actually got my master's in public health. I thought I was going to go into healthcare. I worked in healthcare for a little bit, but I just wasn't finding that joy. And so I remember the joy that I had in India of being a teacher. And that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a step of faith here and enter into that role. And I'm so glad that I did that.
It's interesting how we find our callings in life sometimes in more like unorthodox ways, right? I mean,
Mm.
myself going into entertainment, I never wanted to pursue this. It was never a career path for me. It was never something even encouraged. I was actually coming from the mechanical engineering consulting world, and then find myself wanting to go into pharmaceutical sales. And then from a friend who literally, like what you're saying, suggested, why don't you come and volunteer on this independent film? We're actually looking for Korean Americans to come and help out, specifically because the director was Korean American. And 21 years later, now I'm doing this. I mean, I could not have written that story. I definitely did not see that coming around the curve. And so I think there's an element of just when you're called to do something in life, it manifests itself no matter what. It's like almost like you can't escape your destiny in terms of what you're supposed to do. But obviously, that can change. Maybe 20 years from now, you'll be doing something else. But for this moment, I know you've been making a huge impact with developing Korean American and Asian American studies courses in your district. And to me, that's something just so admirable because it's so relevant right now with what I'm doing. But I'd like to hear from yourself in terms of what did it feel like to bring those stories into the classroom, and how have your students, especially from the AAPI backgrounds, how they responded?
Well, I've been very interested in Asian American history all the way since college, and but I never really acted on that too much until maybe 2020, where we saw the surge in anti-Asian racism. There are two pandemics, COVID-19 and also the surge in anti-Asian racism, OC Human Relations reported in Orange County, California, a 1,800% increase in hate incidents. And growing up, I did have some folks say racial slurs and things like that to me. So there's an element of that where I don't know if this is the right thing, but I'm a little bit used to some element of that. But then when I saw in the media, like elderly people, like someone who could have been looking like my mother or father, like a grandparent getting beaten, some killed, bones broken, or the Atlanta shootings, I just felt like I needed to do something in response to that. That was in 2020. So there's so much fear and anger in our country. And I thought it's so easy, with fear and anger, to respond right back with fear and anger. But I wanted to respond with love and wisdom. And I asked myself, what would be the most loving thing I could do in response to this very ugly thing that's happening? And then that's when these 4 words came to my mind: know, tell, listen, and do. So to know your own story, to tell your story to others, to listen to one another's stories with empathy and respect, and do something good with your stories. And if any listener leaves with anything from this conversation, I hope they'll leave with know, tell, listen, and do. And as I did this, I realized that so many of us, including myself, don't even know our own stories. We don't know our parents' stories. It's not just me, the students don't know it. And this is, as you related, Arnold, to some of the trauma that maybe our families have experienced, whether it's Korea being colonized between 1910 to 1945, brutally colonized, or whether it's the Korean War, Arnold, which I know you're an expert on, doing some amazing work with, and I can't wait to see that work. From 1950 to 1953, about 10% of all of Korea, so many lives lost during that time. And then the post-1965 immigration, the migration, which is also difficult for many families and parents not being able to talk about these things with their own children. And all these stories of resilience being lost, and young people not being able to understand why their parents are telling them to do what they need to do. So this disconnect. So as I'm helping students to know their own story and they're connecting with their families, it's been so beautiful to see so many of these relationships and reconciliation happening, and young people understanding their parents. And once again, although this class is called Korean American Studies, it's not just for Korean Americans, it's for all Americans. And it's giving a chance for a lot of understanding between different groups, this intersectionality and connection between various groups. I tell my students that in order for the tree to grow tall, you have to know your roots. And our roots are interconnected with the roots of Hispanic, Latino, African American, Native American, all Americans. As we hear the Korean American story, we're also able to learn about the stories of one another and see those connections.
I mean, as I listen to you, I gather a deep sense of civic education is such a big part of what you're doing. And under your leadership, I know your school has won several prestigious awards. So civic engagement, I mean, how do we translate that to today's students? And why is it so critical to have that?
Yes. So as you're getting to know your own story, once again, this is the first time for so many students. And as they're telling their story, some people might think, oh, they're just telling their story. But actually, when you give voice to your own story, that also activates something called agency, this feeling like I can do something about my situation, which then makes them want to do something. And do something not just to make money, but do something that connects to their own story of resilience, that goes back to their roots, compassion into their own community. Sometimes when people think civics, they think politics, and it could be, but it's so much bigger than that. And I think it begins with community. So whenever I work with students and we talk about civics, it begins with community, being a good friend, strengthening our communities, creating places of belonging. Then we talk about amplifying their voice, and not angry voices, but compassionate, thoughtful, informed voices. And then, of course, doing something good with our voices. So what is the most compassionate thing we could do in response to what we know? And so, yes, this approach has been very well received. So I'm over here in the Anaheim Unified School District. Our little old district here has received more CLS civic engagements than any other district in the state of California. The school that I'm at has won 7 civic learning awards at South Junior High School from the Department of Education Judicial Council. And this work is being talked about in many different spaces because it's being valued as an approach to help students find a sense of agency and to do something good in their community. And once again, especially for Asian Americans, and I know with Asian Americans, mental health is such a big and a very important issue to talk about that's oftentimes not talked about. many people are saying that when students get to know their story and do something good with their stories, it also strengthens their mental health as well.
I mean, you wear a lot of hats. I mean, you're school board member, instructional coach, classroom teacher, and what you're saying, I mean, I'm so glad to hear this from you. I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody like yourself that is doing the actual boots on the ground work that you're doing when it comes to this particular topic. But, I'm sure sometimes your personal values, I mean, they guide your decisions in each of these roles. So I know that you have to stay so grounded in the student's needs. How do you keep that focus? Like, I mean, I'm sure sometimes there are situations and decisions where, personally, it may not align exactly with, sort of the educational aspect of what you're trying to convey. So can you walk us through, like, sometimes maybe some of the conflicts that you experience in terms of, so how do you stay grounded in student needs when it comes to the decisions that you're making while wearing all these various multiple hats?
So I teach a course at Vanguard University, and they call it the School of Education for Love and Wisdom. And so sometimes when we think about education, we think about the most effective pedagogies and so forth, effective strategies, and of course we should use those, but it should be with love and wisdom. And so I love framing that in everything that I do. So whatever work I'm doing, I try to think, what is a loving response? How can I respond with love? Because I feel like I've been so loved, I ask myself, how can I show love in these different spaces? How can I speak in a wise way? And if I find myself not feeling that love in my heart, then I try to take a step back and see what it is that is causing that. And then, even speaking it out, like kind of how I'm feeling in that moment until I can come to that place once again of love and wisdom. Then there's also when people think about education, usually the first thing that many people do is they think about what's going wrong with it. And they point out, oh, this is not right, or this is not right, or that's not right. But I think we got to really think about how are we going to help students find out what they're good at so that they can do good with it. And one way to do that is by raising what you praise. So encouraging what you do see that you do value. So in all those different roles as an educator, board member, classroom teacher, instructional coach, rather than pointing out what's going wrong, I try to really highlight what's going right. And then as I continue to talk about what's going right in my various ways, whether it's at meetings or one-on-one coaching or through a YouTube channel, then what that does is that amplifies that work much more than if I criticize that person for the one thing that I disagree with. So that philosophy of raising what I praise, coming in with love and wisdom, and helping students to find out what they're good at so that they can do good with it.
I mean, the other thing that I thought about as you're mentioning that, the focus is on multicultural teacher preparation. And I imagine there's got to be blind spots that come about in terms of how do you train teachers to work in culturally diverse classrooms? I mean, I'm sure right now it's a pretty big topic with what's been happening with the dismantling of DEI initiatives and all that. Can you talk about those kind of challenges? Have there been some pretty big blind spots in that way of, how to train these teachers to work in those kinds of diverse classroom environments?
Well, we have such an opportunity in California. I don't think we sometimes think about it because we just live here, but we live in a color-blessed nation. No other country has that type of blessing like ours. And so how can we be culturally honoring, and how can we leverage that for workforce development as well? So when we think about our diverse workforce, or if we think globally, do we want people that know how to interact with lots of different kinds of people? I mean, of course, we absolutely do. In addition to the compassion and love we want to show others, this has economic importance as well. So how do we prepare then our teachers for this? There's a lot of great reasons why. And I'm really thankful that in California, the new standards, the CSTPs, or the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, include elements of belonging, community, identity. And I think these are all very important pieces to look at. And then for myself, teaching at the university at Cal State Fullerton and Vanguard University, once again, those 4 words: know, tell, listen, do. And just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you know your own story. So I have a lot of teachers coming in saying, I don't really know the meaning of my name. I don't know how I was named. I don't know my background. I don't know my parents' story. They don't know their own story. So then how can they know the stories of their students unless they begin with themselves? So a lot of the same activities I actually have the teachers do, so that they are then able to support the students. And in fact, the students in my class who are doing this work and have these very beautiful ethnographies, very beautiful oral histories, very beautiful poetry and artwork around their migration stories, or with their parents, or with their culture, their background. I actually have them come into class and teach the teachers. and show the kind of work that's happening. That's our school bell,
Mm.
actually. I'm recording here, right from school. And so yes, I have them also know, tell, listen, do as well in the teacher preparation programs.
It's so important because the more that you, like to your words, the more that you understand your own roots and your upbringing and your background and your cultural heritage and those kinds of things. Yeah, it gives you sort of like a reflection in the mirror to be able to then be able to convey that back to the next generation that you're trying to educate and talk to. Thank you for sharing that. It's so important. I want to shift the gears a little bit. I want to talk about your YouTube channel, EdFamily. So, I mean, you created this platform for school home connection. So tell us what inspired you to launch it and the impact that you've been seeing from bringing educational conversations into family spaces.
Yeah, I've always thought, like, when you think about school, who should be involved in education? A lot of times society puts the pressure on the school itself. But the training up of the next generation cannot be done in silos. It must be done in partnership with many. And so the idea for this actually first came from like listening to my own students at Cal State University, Fullerton, and Vanguard University. I was having them create vlogs. And then when I was listening to them, I was like, you are inspiring me. Once again, you don't have to be you could be the teacher and still be inspired by your students. So my students were inspiring me as they're sharing story after story, and that made me think, you know what, maybe I'll create this vlog, and I'll call it Ed Family. This whole education family gathering together to help students find out what they're good at, so that they can do good with it. And so on that channel, whatever it is that I'm learning, I'm just sharing out. And so even if I was the only one listening to these vlogs, it would be worth it for me. But there are many that are also benefiting. I include teaching strategies, events that I have a chance to go to, school board stories. And once again, just like I had never had a teacher that looked like me, I never also had an administrator or school board member that I recall, or elected official for that matter, or even an actor that I could really respect as a young person growing up. And so that's why I think all these stories become so important. Maybe I'm just going to be that person for right now. There's going to be someone even greater behind me, but I'm doing my part to help pave the way. I also talk a little bit about self-care. And so what I use this YouTube channel for is, of course, anyone has access to it, but then also for others to, if I want to specifically give them some information, they ask for some advice, I could also share with them that specific clip as well.
No, I think that's so important, and especially for people of color, because for those who want to lead in education but don't often see themselves, I think you're a beacon of light and hope in that particular space. And so, please, other words of encouragement and advice that you could offer for those who want to maybe be the next Dr. Jeff Kim.
I think definitely connecting with everyone. In addition to people that look like yourself too. So connecting with everyone. I don't know if you ever grew up like this, Arnold, where if you met another Asian American, you felt like there was some competition or something like that. Like you had to have like a high or something. And I wish that wasn't the case. There are not enough of Asian American educational leaders out there, or any kind of in any space. We need to like be supporting each other, encouraging each other. And I wish that could happen more, to be honest. And we're growing in that area. And then also, let's just say you're alone in that space, because just like you, Arnold, like as an educational leader, I don't see many educational leaders who are Asian American. I do see some, but not many. And then Arnold, I know the same must be in entertainment as well. Sometimes I just feel like I don't know if I'm the best person or not, but I need to pave the way right now for the people behind me. And so I'm just going to push on ahead with what I got, and I hope it benefits people behind me. And so whenever we're on like a channel like this channel right here, the Asian Pacific Voices in Radio or other places, and they see us like speaking in English, talking intelligent, that is breaking stereotypes. That's dismantling stereotypes that are out there. So that's why I'm so thankful for these kind of spaces where we can amplify voices and support one another and help to pave the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, brother. Let's talk about legacy. I mean, doing what you're doing, I think you're really changing the face of education in so many ways, especially because of content that, going back to what you're saying, just learning roots and having the kind of content to be able to inform us properly about our roots in that sense. It's an exciting time to be with. So in terms of legacy, what do you want to leave as an educator, a board member, a cultural advocate? Please share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, oftentimes I'm in spaces, and sometimes the change happens quickly, but sometimes I know it's not going to happen in 1 year or even 10 years. So we're planting trees for a shade that we may never experience. But I'm hoping that it can be there for the next generation. And there's that proverb that's out there, right? That's the bell again. Now the students are back in class, but I want to go ahead and leave you with that proverb at this time. If you have a year, plant rice. If you have 10 years, plant a tree. If you have 100 years, educate a generation of children. There's nothing more important than educating a generation of children, and the time is now, but we may not see the fruits of that for 100 years.
Amen. No, that's very encouraging. I got a 9-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and that, I mean, you're speaking directly to my heart in that sense, and just our responsibility, not only as educators, as parents, for those out there, to pass on those stories so that it educates them properly, so that they have a grounded identity of understanding where they came from, and may that translate into their pursuits in life and what they want to do to contribute into the fabric of American history, and continue to the building and growth of not only this state, this country, but the world in that sense. So for all the listeners out there, do you have a website, social media, with the way that people can connect with you if they have further questions or they want to kind of see a bit more about your journey in detail?
Yes, I try to tell my story through the YouTube channel. So the EdFamily YouTube channel is the best place to go, where I try to post at least one video weekly, and that's my way of just sharing my journey with others, and I hope it leaves a legacy for others and supports others as well.
Awesome. What about social media? Can we find you on Instagram?
I do have a Facebook page called Dr. Jeff Kim Irvine School Board, so that's one space. And I do have an Instagram account, but it's not as active as some of my other spaces.
I got you. Well, Jeff, Dr. Jeff Kim, I just want to thank you for your time. And man, it was just such a blessing to reconnect with you and just hear your journey and just all the great, incredible work that you're doing. So once again, just want to thank you for joining me on today's show. So for all of our listeners out there, we would love to hear from you, our valued listeners, about any suggestions for future guests or topics. Don't forget to subscribe to our program on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, a nonprofit that empowers the Asian Pacific American communities with a voice through media arts. If you'd like to support our program, please visit AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. I'm Arnold Chun. Please join us next week for another exciting and thought-provoking Asian Pacific Voices Radio show. Until then, take care, everyone.